We got some extra captain speed. So yeah, in terms of ship captains, on the Midway, I was experimenting with concealment on the Midway because it's such a large ship. And it has quite a large impact. It goes from like 16 or 17 something down to 13.9, which is cool. If I didn't take concealment, I would have taken AFT, but you know, it's what it is. In fact, there's only a single torpedo bomber, so yes, it could load a little bit faster, but I figured the basic fire training was more important than the torpedo bomber. But that's kind of iffy. I just wanted to push the damage of the long range guns and double it. So 264 is with the BFT, and then double that on top of it. It's just fairly decent DPS. To protect other people, because case in point, you saw what happened to the enemy Midway's torpedo bomber when he tried to attack our battleship. He just melted. Now the defensive fire doesn't give a 3 times damage multiplier. The defensive fire, when you trigger it, only gives a 1.75 multiplier, and that's only to the Bofor guns. It doesn't affect the long range guns. So MFAA only realistically works on the long range weaponry. So the damage increase is marginal on the mid range, but just by getting BFT, you help the mid range a lot, and then it synergies with the manual fire AA, which is why I went with what I had. But anyway, that's the Midway. The Essex, these are only 15-point captains. The Essex is actually also my Saipan captain, which is why I go with the torpedo loader, simply so that the Saipans can load faster. And also I went with AFT rather than manual fire because the dual purpose guns are actually quite weak. The larger caliber ones are quite actually weak on the Essex compared to the Midway or the Lexington. So I decided not to take the manual fire, and I went with advanced fire training. And then for the remaining 4 points, I would probably take basic fire training and then priority target. Just to beef up my self-defense on the Saipan and the Essex, and then also know when I'm spotted or know when I'm targeted actually. But that's if I get more, I bother to play it more or level up to 19 points. The Lexington was me experimenting with evasive maneuvers before they fixed it, because it used to be that you could trigger the return, and then the benefits here, 75% health and detectability, would trigger on the return, but now it's only after you drop your bomb load, which makes the skill totally garbage. So I need to retrain this captain and put it somewhere else. Because this is just a fighter Lexington, I didn't go with the torpedo skills, so I went with basic fire training, which is simple, manual fire. I'll probably drop that 1 point, maybe put it into priority target. I don't know yet how I want to do the spec, because it's still 15.2. The detectability is kind of large, but not prohibitively, if you know what I mean. So, and because it's fighter dive bomber, I don't even think I need the expert rear gunners, but if I'm not going to use torpedo ships on this, because I'm definitely not using 111, on the Lexington on EU, even though I use it on NA, but that's only for leveling purposes. So expert rear gunner, kind of for the 2 dive bombers, is kind of the best thing you can get at the moment. Yeah, so I don't think I'd take demolition expert. I don't know. This one's up in the air. I like the expert rear gunners. It doesn't really add that much DPS to the dive bombers, and no one would, in their right mind, would click on 7 US dive bombers on the return and just let them A them down naturally. You would barrage them, right? Yeah, I'll show you the Haku in a second.
Yo, Farah.
Yes, what's up?
Gonna do a few games?
No, I'm quitting in a moment, or maybe I'm going to NA. But thanks though.
Okay, man.
Cheers. So that's the hack. The Saipan, well, that's the Essex captain that we use. So if I bump this over here, the Saipan, right, so the thing about the Saipan is that CV sniping is a real thing in ranked, okay? So you need to be able to defend yourself, and you need to do damage. So if you go 301 Saipan, you sacrifice all ability to influence the game. You're one dive bomber, and you're just rolling the dice on RNG, and you're dive bombing the enemy destroyers, getting lucky. That's not the way I like to play. I like to play with fighters and torpedo bombers, which is why I go 2-0 on the Saipan. The problem is, a really good Hakuryu player will beat a really good Saipan player, just because his 2-2-2 Hakuryu allows him to scout with the dive bombers. Now, the torpedo bombers are actually very hard to cross-drop a destroyer as well. but they are exceptionally powerful when going for the Gneisenau's, the battleships, the Congos, that type of thing, because you can hit them really, really hard. The issue is if you are fighting, your 4 fighters, assuming you have air supremacy, will lose to his 5 fighters in a straight up fair fight with no AA and no other influence. But you can barrage, he can barrage, and if he's got AA, you can actually resist it because your planes have more health for a while. But because of dogfighting, his planes will actually beat yours. So you need to be very cagey about how and when you choose to engage with the fires. But then, if he goes to snipe you, because if I know the enemy Saipan is 220, I will go to snipe him, provided he's not inside the AA range of friendly ships, because he is the greatest threat. He can snipe me in 2 waves, I can snipe him in 1 wave. So the Hakuryu is going to kill you in 1 wave of, to TB, TB, DB, DB. He'll just kill you right out. So you need to have, preferably, you want to have basic fire training and advanced fire training so that I played 10 and 11 point Hakuryu on NA for a while as well. So that you have self-defense, because there is no MFAA on Saipan, and the AA range is actually quite short, 4.2. That's with advanced fire training, 4.2. But you can beef up the AA on this thing to make it somewhat viable if you get the basic fire training. Oh shit! No! Oh, come on, you piece of shit. I'm spamming the escape. Thank you, God. UI sometimes. It's really, really, really sluggish. What did I want to click? Actually, I have no idea. I've lost my train of thought now because of that. Yeah, the basic fire, blah, blah, blah. Basic fire. Oh, yeah, the exterior. We wanted to click on exterior. Yeah, so I don't have the AA flag on. So if you take the AA signal along with basic fire training, you dramatically increase the self-defense of the Essex. That's why on the Hakuryu, which I'm coming to, I have a really, really strong AA build, because I need to be able to, the carrier needs to be able to defend itself without fighters from bombers. That's why if you're playing ranked competitive with Saipan, you need to take advanced fire training, you need to take basic fire training. However, because you don't take manual fire AA because there's no need, you don't need to, you don't have those guns, you're actually freed up by 4 points. You can then spend those 3 points on getting torpedo armament expertise, and probably simply even prior target to know when people are looking at you and targeting you. But that's kind of an optional thing for Saipan. Borg was just a troll build. It's a fighter Borg. It's kind of very similar to the Essex. I was messing around, so that's not really a serious ship. Hakuryu, yeah, because of the number of torpedo bombers, I wanted to have torpedo armament expertise on the Hakuryu. But the other issue is that you can argue it's good to take AFT because the defensive fire triggers at 3.5 kilometers, because it only triggers in the 40mm Bofors, right? So if I took advanced fire training, this would go up to 4.2 kilometers. So my ability to project away a panic effect and protect other ships is higher. However, I don't think I can afford the points because the Hakuryu has crazy good levels of DP guns, and if I take off just that for a second and put on a signal thing, right, then we see on the A guns, if you're in full AA mode, you've got 329 DPS at 5 kilometers base, right? That's the thing. Now factor in manual fire AA, that doubles up to 658. That's straight up. That's just it. Then you have to factor in clicking on the plane itself, which I believe is a 1.3 multiplier, 1 times 3, and then that gives you your actual number. So, assuming my math is correct here, and please do correct me, 329 times 2 equals 658. Times that by 1.3 for focus firing when you're clicking on a thing is 855.4 DPS. That's no small amount to be going at 5 kilometers. Another 319 at 3.5 is fine. The defensive fire will only do a 1.75 multiplier on the close range AA. So when he gets in close, the combined thing actually begins to spike at the 3.5 range. But anyway, the point is, that's why I don't take AFT, because the number of torpedo bombers on the ship, I wanted to take torpedo armor expertise to load the 3 TB waves. I think it's worth the 3 points. And because you got 1 point left over, then that's why I took prior target, so I know I'm spotted. On the Taiho, which is another 19-point captain, I experimented with slightly differently. I didn't take basic fire training, and I didn't take prior target. Even though the dual-purpose guns are really, really powerful, I wanted to try out concealment expert, taking it down to 10.7, which is like 0.1 less than the Shikaku, just to see what it was like to play the Taiho more aggressively, more up the front line, that type of thing. But yeah, it's probably not good. If I was being serious, I'd probably swap the concealment expert back for BFT and priority again. But anyway, there is no competitive tier 9. There's nothing like that. There's no ranked at tier 9. Plus, another thing about the tier 9 is you'd probably go 3-2-2 on the Taiho. I don't know if you'd go 4-2-2 on the Hakuryu, but we've never actually done legit competitive tier 9s and 10s. So with that in mind, it's unknown waters. One thing we do have, though, is competitive tier 8. So this is the proper self-defense build. Because when you play competitive Shikaku, you go 3-1-2. 3 fires, 1 torpedo bomber, 2 dive bombers. So you're not going to spend 3 points on making 1 torpedo bomber faster load. That's a waste of time, because he's going to be loitering, waiting for target of opportunity. That could be tens of minutes before you get a chance to send that torpedo bomber in. So you still want to take torpedo acceleration because there's nothing else that's realistically good. You could argue maybe expert rear gunner, but you want the speed so you can hit. Basically, you want the faster converging of the torps, and you also want to hit those destroyers if you get a chance. That's where torpedo acceleration is mandatory. But the trifecta, if your fighters are out fighting, if your bombers are out doing something else, and you need to defend yourself from any form of sniper or any type of plane coming at you, this is why you take advanced fire training, basic fire training, and manual fire A. The advanced fire training pushes up your defensive fire up to 3.7. So 3.7 is when your defensive fire triggers, or the panic effect and the damage multiplier. And the damage 7.75 is only on this lower range, but 3.7 is still a fairly decent range, although you can just torp out of it, but dive bombers are useless. And we can see that the DP guns are actually pretty decent, because combined you're talking about 100 DPS, and then multiply that for 200, and then the multiplier of 1.3 for tier 8 is pretty decent. And usually if you focus on torpedo bombers, you can kill 2 or 3 planes of a wave. If you run away, keep your tail at the enemy, you can more or less kill all the planes that are trying to come attack you, provided you're running away from them, not going straight into them. Don't try and turn into the torps as well, because the Shikaku's turning circle is too slow, it's too sluggish, it just doesn't work. So you want to keep your tail on the torpedo bombers as well. And the thing is, you don't want to get baited with your defensive fire as well. If he tries to do like a dive bomb fire, then he tries to wait for your damage con, then go in torpedo bombers as well. So you need to think, where are my fighters, what can I do? Because if you know he's going to try and snipe you, then you bring your fighters back over your ship if that's possible, and then you fighter duel his fighters, because that's basically what's going to happen, over your ship's AA. So the passive AA means you'll win the fire duel quicker, and then he's on the clock because the alien has to bomb you. So you allow 1 fire to burn. 2 is debatable. But the thing is, he can't send 1 torpedo bomber, 1 dive bomber, and then another one, because if he sends 1 torpedo bomber by itself, you'll kill off the 4 planes before he gets the opportunity to release the torps. So that's why the AA build of the Shikaku is really powerful. And even if I take this into randoms, yes, the torpedo bombers will take it's longer to take off, but I launch the fighters first anyway, and the torpedo bombers are right behind them. And the ability to protect myself against things like Lexingtons and whatnot is quite nice. The Hakuryu is the exact same thing. Exact same build, but it's more important on the Hakuryu, because if you're talking ranked on the Hakuryu, well, now you don't have a defensive anymore. The defensive fire, you don't have that panic effect. And if you're fighting, and I personally don't go 3-1-2 in ranked, I like to go 2-2-2 in ranked with Hakuryu, so I can actually be beneficial. I can cross-drop torps, I can go after individual targets, or I can 1 torpedo bomber, 1 dive bomber, flood fire a target, force them to damage con, then go in again with the 2nd torpedo or dive bomber, and then you kill them off, or you do a ton more damage than just alpha striking them, right? So that means that you are probably protecting your bombers, or you're fighting around. It means you're vulnerable. So if a Saipan comes calling with his 2 torpedo bombers and you're caught off with your pants down and you didn't pay attention, keep your tail to the torpedo bombers, click on them, and just pray RNGesus gives you some good exchanges and you kill a couple of planes. You should, even with 6 torpedoes hitting you and your Hakuryu, survive at the first Saipan strike. And you should be able to kill off tier 6 Hakuryu torpedo bombers before they even get to you, provided you keep your tail to them when you run away. So that's the AA build, and that's why it is what it is. It's probably the strongest build you could possibly have. After that, we're going down to low point captains. I mean, I've got a Ryujo. I know it's got some good DP guns, so I put on MF8A because I had some points left over because I had 15 points on it. The Zuiho is just a 12-point captain, so I just got the basic setup and left it. Same with the Hosho. It's just a very simplistic setup. Nothing fancy. But anyway, that's my carrier builds. Some of them experimental, some of them are serious. You know, Hakuryu Shikaku's kind of serious. Some of my captains are only 15 points, because 15 points used to be the basic, you know, what you required, and you couldn't realistically do anything else, anything extra, because you needed 4 points for all these AA skills, and if you're on 15, well, then you need a 19-point captain. That was impossible because you need 10 million. Now, heck, every captain could be 19 points, but it's like a million extra experience to go from like 15 to 19, so I haven't done it with a lot. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4... 5 CV captains that are 19 pointers. I guess it would make an interesting YouTube video. I mean, we could make a clip out of it, I suppose, or a highlight.